Welcome to this service for people in recovery. You are welcome whatever your stage in recovery, whatever your addiction, and whether you have a faith or not. My name is Tracy and I am a woman in recovery. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, there will only be pre-records as I have had back surgery, but as soon as I'm able to, I will do live services again. This service takes the form of a reflection type inventory, a share based on short reading and 12-step prayers. If you're missing being in the service with others, why not start a conversation in the comments section below the video about what you've heard. But as usual, we start our service by looking for the positives in the week that has been. For those of us who use inventory tools, we're encouraged to note the good things in our lives on a daily basis. We might be thankful this morning for specific people who are in our lives, or maybe events, but it also might be something as small as just being able to see a bird going in a bird box. That's something that gives me joy this week. So in a moment of quiet, bring to mind those things that you are thankful for today. If you want to, you could type them in the comments box below the video, and maybe others too will do too when they watch it. But let's just hold a moment while we do so. As part of our 10th step discipline, we also take time each day to bring to mind those times when we have thought, said or done things which were not great. The times we were resentful, selfish, self-depreciating, or times we should have maybe offered apologies or amends and we didn't. So we hold a moment of quiet now as we bring those things to mind. And as we do so, we say sorry to God, who will forgive us however many times we mess up, as long as we are honest with him and each other. To end this time of prayer, we're going to use the 10th step prayer, and it will appear on the screen. We say together, God, remove the selfishness, dishonesty, resentment and fear that has cropped up in my life right now. Help me to discuss this with someone immediately and make amends quickly if I have harmed anyone. Help me to cease fighting anything or anyone. Show me where I may be helpful to someone else. Help me to react sanely, not cocky or afraid. How can I best serve you? Your will, not mine, be done. Amen. Before we move on to the share, I want to read you a passage from a book written by one of my favourite authors. Her name is Rachel Held Evans, and sadly she died just over a year ago, in her 30s. But in one of her books, she talks quite a lot about 12-step groups and those in recovery, and I found her words deeply moving. When I was going back over some of her words this week, I came across this paragraph, which for me sums up what it's like to be in a 12-step fellowship, but also to share in recovery services like this, whether live or pre-recorded. She says, we don't get to send our lives through the rinse cycle before showing up to church or even fellowship group. We come as we are, no hiding, no acting, no fear. We come with our fear of death, our desperation to be loved, our troubled marriages, our persistent doubts, our preoccupation with status and image. We come with our addictions to substances, to work, to affirmation, to control, to food. We come with our differences, be they political, theological, racial or socio-economic. We come in search of sanctuary, a safe place to shed the masks and exhale. We come to air our dirty laundry before God and everybody, because when we do it together, we don't have to be afraid. I find that really powerful. And in my 12-step fellowship and this community of recovery, in Recovery Church, I see this as a reality and something that I am so grateful for and hope you do too. Each week we have been reflecting on a different step in the 12-step program, and this week we're going to think about the 5th step. Step 5 says this: we admitted to God, to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Before we reflect a little bit on this step, we're going to hear a few verses from Psalm 32. When I kept it all inside, my bones turned to powder. My words became day-long groans. The pressure never let up. All the juices of my life dried up. Then I let it all out, and I said, I'll make a clean breast of my failures to God. Suddenly, the pressure was gone, my guilt dissolved, and my sin disappeared. Have you ever been in a situation when you've had a problem with a tooth, but you have tried to pretend it doesn't exist, or just taken painkillers and hoped it would go away? You were avoiding going to the dentist. Maybe it was a medical issue and you have tried to ignore it and try to avoid going to the doctors. Well, I hate going to the dentist. When I was a child, I had to go a lot. I had weak teeth, and therefore every time I went to the dentist, I had to have a filling or fluoride treatment or something. And in the 1970s, dentist treatment wasn't quite as relaxed as it seems to be now. I dreaded going. So even as an adult, I'll avoid going for as long as I can. The problem with this strategy is that often this makes the problem worse and the necessary treatment longer and more expensive. Step 4 is hard. Acknowledging our resentments and our own behaviour is tough, and it can be really painful, and we might put it off, but that's not the end of it. For me, the hardest part of step 5, when I had to admit it not only to myself and God, but to another human being. I spent quite a while working out who I wanted to share my step 5 with. In the end, I chose a minister friend of mine who had shared things about her past with me some time ago, and me to her. Part of me wished that step 4 was the end of this part of the programme. Wasn't it enough to write it down? But in my heart of hearts, I knew that if I left it there, it would not lead to the healing I so desired and needed. Richard Rohr, in the book that I've been talking about in other weeks, says, as any good therapist will tell you, you cannot heal what you do not acknowledge, and what you do not consciously acknowledge will remain in control of you from within, festering and destroying you and those around you. In step 4 last week, we talked about the truth setting you free. And step 5 is the continuation of that. In step 4, there is still a sense of secrecy. Only you and your higher power know the truth. And risky as that still feels, it's not as risky as someone you know hearing it all. But if it's to lose its control over your past, your present and your future, it has to be owned. And it has to be confessed. I arranged to meet my friend in one of her churches one evening. I wanted to say my step 5 in a church because my faith is important to me. We sat around the communion table, 2 chairs facing each other. After some initial awkward chit-chat, I took a deep breath and decided I had to start. But before I did, I said to my friend that I was really nervous about doing it because she would never be able to unhear what she was about to hear, and she would never see me the same way again. My friend immediately told me that I was right. She would never see me in the same way again because she could never admire me more than in this moment, being prepared to share so honestly and intimately with her. This made me cry, but also gave me the confidence to begin the journey of honesty. For the next 90 minutes, she sat there and she listened. Just listened. No comment, no qualifications, no correcting. She gave me the greatest gift a person can give another: deep listening and acceptance. Once I finished, she stood up and came over and gave me a hug, and we cried together. Hard as it was to share those deep things about myself, the feeling of relief afterwards was unexpected. For the first time, I felt something of what I had read about in the Bible and the big book about release and freedom. The words of our reading in the light of step 5 make a whole load of new sense. So I want to end by reading them again. When I kept it all inside, my bones turned to powder. My words became day-long groans. The pressure never let up. All the juices of my life dried up. Then I let it all out. And I said, I'll make a clean breast of my failures to God. Suddenly, the pressure was gone. My guilt was dissolved and my sin disappeared. I thought it might be helpful if we said the 5th step prayer together now. God, I thank you from the bottom of my heart that I know you better. Help me become aware of anything I have missed discussing with another person. Help me to do what is necessary to walk a free person at last. Amen. Thanks for listening. If you want to comment on what you have heard or how it resonated with you, feel free to comment below the video. At this point in the service each week, we hold before our higher power the people and situations that are on our hearts. Thinking of others is an important part of our recovery, but it's also a loving thing to do. So in a moment of silence, we bring before God those people and situations that we're concerned about today. We're also going to spend a few moments handing over the week ahead. We hand over to our higher power those parts of the week ahead that we are fearful of or anxious about, reminding ourselves that we only need to live in today, that we cannot control what others think, say or do, but can only live one day at a time and change our own behaviour. So in the quiet, bring to mind those things that you're concerned about the week ahead and hand them over. And after a moment of silence, we'll say the Serenity Prayer together. So we say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So thank you for joining me this week, and I hope you have a blessed week, and hopefully I will see you soon back in a live service. But in the meantime, have a blessed week. I'll see you soon.